Yogg-Saron, the god of death. Well, over 10 years later, that label seems a little bit inaccurate or even laughable. The god of death, just one mountain range over from the Lich King. At the time, it was odd, but knowing that this god of death was actually opposed to death itself makes the whole thing a bit stranger. Or just think about Shadowlands. With all that we know, it is now time to re-examine if Yogg-Saron actually had anything to do with death at all. And after all, Yogg's title was no accident, and trust me, this is a wild ride. Where to start then? Well, Blizzard told us after Wrath of the Lich King was said and done that there was a connection between Yogg-Saron and the Lich King. One that the developers thought was evident, but the players largely missed out on. Saronite, Matthias Lenner, the War of the Spider, Bolvar. How the hell did we miss it all? Well, make sure you don't get missed with today's sponsor, squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. Use promo code Bellular Gaming to get 10% off your first purchase. The link is down below, and look, it's simple. Squarespace are the fastest and easiest way to get a great looking site quickly. Simple as that. I built this showcase site for the loot that we do in just 40 minutes using my iPad on the couch. You'll see parts of the time-lapse of me doing it in this video. I mean, seriously, it's that fast. And the results are always going to look great, especially if you're starting with their incredible templates. They've also got super handy styling tools so you can apply across your site, which just makes it so easy. But of course, if you want to go in and do your manual custom CSS, you can do that. But there you go, that's a site I whipped up super quickly. Of course, your site is important. It's what people see of you online. So, are you an artist? Do you want a nice portfolio that stands out? Well, then a gorgeous, clean, content-first website, that's what you need. Of course, though, there is far more. Do you want a website for your business? Do you want a personal site? Perhaps e-commerce? You'll learn more about that in our next spot. They've even actually started a memberships feature if you want to do that too. So, they basically have got everything you need to get started. So to get started, free trial, code Bellular Gaming, and squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. That code gets you 10% off your first purchase. So, thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring the show, and let's go. Saronite, or the blood of Yogg-Saron, drives mortals mad. They hear the whispers of an unknown master. No prizes now for guessing who that may be. The Scourge, who don't have to worry about void corruption because they are of death, sort of stemming from Maldraxxus originally, well, they ended up using Saronite in everything. The bodies of ghouls, weapons, and even armor. Icecrown Citadel itself is made of Saronite and was in fact built by the Dreadlords. Yeah, the Dreadlords. Nothing funny going on here, right? Then, of course, we have the War of the Spider, when Ner'zhul's Scourge fought the Nerubians from above, and the spiders dug down to escape, and unearthed Yogg-Saron's long-buried faceless minions. The Nerubian kingdom was destroyed in a pincer move. But the fighting seemingly ended there. Ner'zhul and Yogg should have fought for supremacy over the continent of Northrend. But clearly they did not. An-Kahet is occupied by the Scourge, Twilight's Hammer, and the Faceless, rather peacefully. The Scourge was even using Yogg-Saron's own blood to build their fortresses, and Yogg-Saron didn't seem to mind. Then, Matthias Lenner, the supposed ghost of young Arthas, one who leads us to Nazanak, a pit underneath Icecrown that just so happens to be full of Yogg-Saron's minions. He leads us there to find and destroy the Lich King's icy heart. Now, if that kid was truly a fragment, the basically bit of Arthas' remaining humanity, then it would hold up that he would want, well, the fallen paladin bit of Arthas to be taken down. But this strange, supposed fragment of Arthas somehow knew to use the blood of the Faceless to hide our presence from the Lich King in the Lich King's own domain. Now, how would that work? How would that fragment of Arthas know to do that if it was just a fragment of Arthas? Something's not adding up here. Who, near Icecrown, could play such convincing tricks on us? And indeed, who is known for playing tricks like that in the past? Well, it's Yogg-Saron. Remember, he appeared to Loken as his dead wife in order to manipulate him. So obviously something, like what's done here with Matthias Lenner, is within Yogg-Saron's remit. Meaning that there's a very high chance that that questing in Icecrown was us doing Yogg-Saron's bidding. What then of Bolvar? It cannot just be a coincidence. It is too good to be true. There is so much going on here. In Bolvar, you have one of the most steadfast paladins of all time. One brought to the brink of death by the machinations of a dreadlord. One cleansed by the aspect of life herself. And one who was sitting on the frozen throne as the Lich King died. He is light, death, and life in one man. The perfect Lich King. But perfect for whom? None of this was news to Yogg-Saron, this perfect Lich King. When the heroes fought Yogg-Saron in his prison, they were shown visions. One was the creation of the Dragon Soul. Another was the assassination of King Lane by Garona. Old God involvement here is unlikely, but Garona was basically mind-controlled by magic daggers made to kill Jaden's specifications. So there's some food for thought there. What's key to this, though, is the other vision. The vision of Bolvar's torture in Icecrown. Yogg-Saron quipped about each vision that he showed us, but for Bolvar, he said, well, Yer Naleth Shul Anag. I can't, obviously, translate that perfectly myself. Now, while I can't find a source for this, so do take this little bit with a mountain of salt, according to WoW Wiki, the translation means, here lies true power. So, translation accuracy aside, Yogg-Saron clearly had an interest in Bolvar. I mean, he showed us a vision. And I think this interest is more than we ever imagined at the time. Because I'm sure we all remember hearing this. Yes, that music is Yogg-Saron's theme, and it is being played right as Bolvar is crowned the new Lich King. Nothing ever came of that at the time, but the stage was set for our eventual return to Icecrown, and the Lich King storyline that would come to pass with Bolvar. Now, we're back. We're armed with more knowledge about death and of the Lich King's true master, the Jailer, all of the Shadowlands lore. And with that, we can work out a lot more of what's going on here. Before we fully dive into the specifics of this story, we have to zoom out just a little bit and take a look at a cosmic scale. So the old gods serve Void. The Lich King served Death, which is one of Void's greatest enemies, as we've explained many times before in this channel. We know that Void has an incredible ability. It can see all possible futures, pretty much all possible timelines. But the thing is, it doesn't know which of the futures it sees will come true. So if you had that power to see all possibilities but not know which would come to pass, what would you do? Well, you would position yourself so that the probabilities end up lying in your favor. You know, make sure that as many of the futures that you can see are wins, and then to try to rule out the ones that would be failures. And what that means is contingencies, it means backups, it means plans nested inside plans, to make sure that you can never truly be wiped out. The old gods were sent out into the cosmos in innumerable quantities to capture as many worlds as possible. And when they made it to Azeroth, they buried themselves so deep that they couldn't actually be killed without the planet itself being destroyed in the process. And when the Black Empire fell, the remaining 3 lived to fight another day. The old gods are only a fraction of the Void's power, but their influence on Azeroth has been massive. And that is something that is so key to today's story. Yogg-Saron truly is the god of death, at least to us. Here is where this entire train of thought started. The old gods are what actually gave death, capital D death, the jailer, etc., a foothold on Azeroth. So I want you to look at Azeroth's history. Before the old gods, Azeroth was a wasteland of warring elements. On other planets in the Warcraft cosmology, spirit was the 5th element, and spirit would bring harmony, and that would allow the other elements, fire, water, air, and so forth, to just exist in harmony, right? On Azeroth, though, the world soul of our world absorbed all of the element of spirit. And that is what sent the elements into chaos. And at that time in Azeroth, it was just elemental chaos. There was no life, there was no death. All that energy just sat there. The Black Empire came then. It wrestled control of the elements, and it started infesting the world. Then, when the Titans came, a war was fought between the creatures of void, these old gods, and the mechanical constructs of the Titans. And when Aman'Thul eventually tore Y'Shaarj out of the planet, it spilt Azeroth's blood. And that is where life on our world actually started. The Titans contained this blood spill, this massive gaping wound, in the Well of Eternity, and they used its power to kickstart life in the Emerald Dream, and in places like Ungoro and Sholazar. Even the trolls were born of this well, and continued exposure to the well turned them into the elves that we know in the Warcraft universe. Now, of course, where there's life, there can also be death. But it is not just trolls and elves and the other natives. What of humans? Well, humans, of course, come from Vrykul. Vrykul come from the Titan Forged. Now, the Titan Forged were just mechanical constructs of the Titans, so death wouldn't apply to them. That is when Yogg-Saron, the self-proclaimed god of death, stepped in with the Curse of Flesh. Yogg-Saron's machinations led to most of Azeroth's dominant races becoming mortals. The Vrykul, who eventually devolved into humans, the Mogu, the dwarves, and the gnomes. Without the old gods, death had no say on Azeroth. Most of the anima that is gathered and forged in the souls of Azerothian beings, in fact, is only like that because of the Curse of Flesh and what the old gods did, specifically what Yogg-Saron did. If the old gods are so afraid of death, then why are they let so many of these things happen? I think the answer is because we are their best chance. It's all contingencies, backups, you know? If they can't win, we will do it for them. So many times now, the old gods have been so close to victory, but they've fallen at the last hurdle. Us, the heroes of Azeroth. If you've been following, excluding the orcs and Draenei, we are as much creations of the old gods as we are of Azeroth, because of the Curse of Flesh. It would be insane four-dimensional chess if they planned for their own downfall every single time, but here's the key. Losing is a possibility that they allow for. Sometimes, to win a war, you have to lose a battle. If death is this immensely powerful force that was using the Lich King to invade Azeroth, then Yogg-Saron, obviously not wanting Azeroth to be invaded and claimed by death, he would have known this, because ultimately Yogg-Saron's goal is to infest Azeroth, to turn the world soul void in the name of the Void Lords. That's the thing, the Void is cunning. And instead, Yogg-Saron, he lost his battle against us, and we won the war for him. Our hard-fought victory in Icecrown led to us installing the perfect anti-jailer Lich King on the Frozen Throne. And now, in Shadowlands, we stand a real chance of true victory against death. If we can defeat the Jailer, that is one of the Void's greatest enemies gone. And just in case you're not super up to date with it, the reason why Bolvar is the perfect anti-Jailer Lich King is because of his powers in light and life, and that giving him an immense resistance to the dominating powers of the Helm of Domination. That is what makes Bolvar different to Arthas and Ner'zhul, and this is something that Blizzard themselves have confirmed. So Bolvar being on the throne, absolutely Yogg-Saron's plan. Now remember our last video about N'Zoth, and how technically we're still working for him. Many of us still bear his gift. The circumstances of his defeat were mysterious, and how he clearly trained us to defeat Ashara for him. Like how Arthas tried to create the ultimate fighting force, and then use us for his own ends. The Void has done the same thing, except the Void has let us think that we've won. We may not have. The Black Empire fell, but in falling, the Well of Eternity was created. Yogg-Saron was imprisoned, but he unleashed the Curse of Flesh and turned most of Azeroth mortal. Cthulhu was killed, but Yogg remained. Yogg fell, but took the Arthas Lich King with him and installed Bolvar. N'Zoth had us return Azeroth to her strongest, and had us master her power before he died. Even when they lose, they win. That's what it means to be cunning. That's what happens when you're a being of Void. A being who knows everything that can happen, but not everything that will happen. It can't be a coincidence that N'Zoth dies, and the very next thing that happens is Death's full assault on our world. Assault that happens when we are more prepared than ever. And we haven't even started with how the Dreadlords may be involved in all of this. They chose Saronite for Icecrown Citadel, and Varamathras instigated the Wrathgate, knowing full well of the Jailer's existence, as we now very much know indeed. Yogg-Saron, the god of death. He orchestrated what it means to die on Azeroth, infected the Emerald Dream when Vogdrasil touched his prison, and his theme was literally played when we installed the ultimate anti-death weapon on the Lich King's throne. That's no coincidence. I will leave you with a quote from the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron, something we uncovered after Arthas was dead and gone. And that is that even death may die. Maybe that wasn't about the Lich King. Maybe the message he left for us was one of hope. For us and for them. That is it for today's video. If you would like to support our channel and also access the awesome web development tools of Squarespace, then I heartily recommend checking out that link down below. Thank you to them for sponsoring and for allowing larger, more in-depth videos like this to be a thing. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.